Well, the devil just might kill you in your sleep. Oh, the devil just might kill you in your sleep. Step all over your head, step on your neck so you can breathe. The devil just might kill you in your sleep. Listen, y'all, the devil, life, the enemy, it almost got me today. Well, yesterday when, if you watch this today, that it comes out. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna keep it a buck with you today. Like this this episode almost did not happen. Um, I was at the point today where I was like, just throw it all away. We don't need anything. So I'm gonna run through that. But I wanted to, we always gotta have a little song, a little theme song, whatever, a little sing song, whatever it is. And that one has been on my heart today. I've discovered that song back in college, early college, and it brought joy to me. That just song is stupid, but it brought joy to me. And they church it up and they keep on, he just might kill you. He just might kill you. And here's the thing, if you are asleep, if you are not focused, if you are not thinking of the things of God, and we'll get to that soon, the devil may kill you. He may kill you. He may kill your purpose. And creatives, I don't want that to happen. So, once again, my name is Justin Reeves, host of the Creatives Well podcast, a podcast for Christian creatives and entrepreneurs who are desiring to live their God given purpose, who just need to be refueled, revitalized, refreshed, renewed, all the positive words. And today, we're at this point. If you're watching this when this comes out, you're at this point of the year where people start to wrap up their year. It's December. It's mid-December at this point. Christmas is literally next week. From the day that this goes out, it'll be a week and a day away. Christmas Eve is a week away from when this video comes out. And to be completely honest, like, Christmas is great. I love Christmas. I've celebrated it already. I've celebrated it in my heart since Labor Day. Like, me and Christmas, we go together real good. But this Christmas season has felt different, and I think I have been different, and not necessarily different in a good way. Um, but it's all a learning process, and it culminated today. Well, when I'm recording this, but yesterday. So you're really getting this real time. It culminated of me just being like really down and being in a terrible mood. I mean, downright nasty mood, like so easily irritable. I already am naturally annoyed easily, but when I tell you, everything today made me want to hurt someone. I said, I should not be talking to people today. Like, I need to keep myself to myself. It was one of those days. But so much so that I got extremely introspective and I started to think about all the things of this year. And what was so very interesting is I could not think of a single good thing from this year. And not from like a from like a macro or micro lens. And I was just really focused on what didn't happen, right? And so I'm gonna give you the examples because this is gonna we value transparency, we value realness here. Like, the last couple guests we've talked about their stories, and I always tell you about mine. So, legitimate story for me. I work a full time job. It's not my job of choice per se. If my employer sees this, I'm happily to get my check and to do what needs to be done. But even there, we've talked about like advancements in career that just haven't happened yet for a variety of reasons. But it's not something I'm super excited about. So I'm working there full time. I still do have my business, of course. And so my business is interesting because it's twofold. I've got the services side of my business, but then also the brand side. So the podcast and the events that I do, that's kind of the brand side. Whereas, like the services I provide, tour management, concert production, marketing, social media, all of that, like those are kind of the two services. And to be completely honest with you all, I haven't had a lot of business this year. I haven't had a lot of fruitful paid business this year. So, I'm just gonna be honest. Like, the year started off really good, and then it felt like it was on an upward trajectory, and then it just kind of plummeted around the end of April. So, in January, I had the Create as Well. The second, Create as Well, was really great. Really enjoyed it. Really felt like God moved there, and also felt like I was really obedient to the call that God had put on my life for that event. Like it felt very spiritual. It felt like it was not just a conference and a workshop, because like anybody can put that on. I'm not even trying to like come for people, but like anybody with a brain, any event producer can put on an event, right? That's just a fact. But what makes your event special and a differentiator, and the differentiator for the Create as Well, is that it is for Christian creatives and it's from a creative, myself, but we really focus on God through it, right? Like, so the lens of the event, the film, the filter of the event, if you will, is through God, right? And so the first time I did it, God was definitely in the event, but it felt very excuse me, sorry, it felt very workshoppy. It felt very just like conferencey, and there's nothing wrong with those things. But I knew God wanted my event, my platform, to be different. Didn't really honor that the first time around. We'll tell that story probably before the next one. We'll see. I don't know. I have an episode list, honestly, and it doesn't seem like I'm following them very well, and that's okay. Um, but yeah, so that was really good. Then right after that, that was January. I'll be honest, I did not make money off of it. Right, I lost money doing the event. That was okay though, because I felt fulfilled because of the impact. Right. um, so that was January. Right after that, literally the very next day was Vision Sunday at my church. And so I was able to creative direct. I really got to step in a role of creative director at church, unofficially. We'll talk about that another day too, about just church work, church creativity, all that. I could do a whole series on that, but anyway. So January was good. February, uh, I don't really remember, so I'm going to assume that it was good. No, February was good because I was prepping for Jasmine's tour. So the highlight of February was prepping for my first tour that wasn't promoted by somebody else, if that makes sense. So at this point, I had done Poets in Autumn. I had done We Need to Talk. I had helped with other events. I had done a whole lot of other big events, but there was always funding coming from somewhere else, right? This one, and the funding was coming from Jasmine's, a sponsor for Jasmine, about to give all their business out. A sponsor for Jasmine paid for the event, but it was at my full discretion. Like the budget was mine. I made the budget. I made the event was literally produced from me. It was produced by the Jarrett Group, by me. Um, of course, Jasmine was fully not just involved, but the visionary for the creative direction. But as far as the actual production of said event, that was on me, and that was a high point. That was something to celebrate, to be completely honest, because I was able to help her realize her dream of her first solo tour, which was awesome. And also prove to myself that I was able to do something without the backing of somebody else, right? There was no um, company that was going with it. There was nobody else. It was me and her, really. And we had a small team as well, and they were amazing. But as far as like the leadership of the tour and the real execution, it was primarily us. It was just the two of us. Um, Again, so many things to talk about. We got episodes for days, but and that was good. That was fun. So that lasted through March and April. Took a little break. Came back in June to finish it off. But I think I talked about this somewhat. But in April, I was planning for Holy Hoodlum, and the planning for Holy Hoodlum really came to a halt because the place that I went to try to secure a venue ended up in a 5 hour long conversation about why I should or should not do the event, why I should focus on the Create as Well solely. What are you doing? What is your purpose? You're not showing up online. You're not showing up as yourself. Good conversation, and I'm very thankful to the individual, the pastor, who took the time out of his busy schedule to have that conversation with me, because I wasn't a member of his church, still not a member of his church, right? But he took the time as a fellow creative to pour into me. But what that did, even though it was good for me, it did not feel good to me. And the ramifications of that conversation reverberated throughout the rest of the year. And I think the fact of the matter is, it wasn't until recently that I really began to process more of it, right? Like I said, great conversation, pushed through it, did some things. But after that, Oh, I guess in March I signed on to do something with a client that I thought was going to be one thing but was not. And I'm just not really at the liberty to speak about it. But it was a high profile client, someone that a lot of you all probably know, and I was excited, right? Like I was like, man, things are really working out. Like I'm going to be able to quit. I'm going to be able to do all these things. Um, and had good success for the first couple of months. To be honest, still having good success. But around summertime, around that conversation, I started to really think, is this the role for me? Right? Like, not so much can I do it, because it wasn't a question of that, but is this what I should be doing? And that, like I said, reverberated a lot of consequences, a lot of just thoughts and things of that nature. Um, Finally did Holy, like skipping ahead because don't want to rehash all this right now, but this is kind of the year in recap episode, if you will. But going to Holy Hoodlum, did Holy Hoodlum, did marketing for my church's fellowships conference, if that makes sense. I did a keynote talk at the event as well on marketing and church, like social media and all the things. So like a lot of wins. And so this is the important thing. There are a lot of wins that are being are happening, right? But somehow we get to we do Holy Hoodlum, that goes well. Personally, go to Hawaii, that was fun. During the summer, lost a lot of weight because I started exercising more. Well, not just more, I started exercising in general because I had truly fallen off in the year. Started eating better too. And then when fall hit, and so like seasonal sadness, seasonal depression. Honestly, I feel like I've been battling seasonal depression this year, coupled with I I want to say actual depression too. Like just to be honest, like I think there's some things that just like really trying to work through with like calling and all of these things, and then you add the seasonal effect of the sadness and it being dark at 12 o'clock in the daytime. Like it's just it's just a lot. So bring all that to Holy Hoodlum. Then got to participate in the Acts 242 conference. Was part of the leadership there, which was really great, really fun. And then I guess that's kind of where things ended and slowed down. And then did Carols for a Cause. We had been talking about that for the past couple episodes. Was great. Check out my Instagram for the recaps, as well as like YouTube stuff. Oh, the whole thing is up on YouTube as well. So all that to say, there was legitimate success this year. Most people would consider it a successful year. But here's the backstory. And this is, I made a post the other day about like people not necessarily showing the full story. So with Jasmine's tour, I'll be honest, had a great time, loved it. Had friction with a couple team members at times. So it showed like inadequacies of like leadership, like some different like things to think through. And so what it really made me think was like, wow, would I be able to, like, the lie that was told to me through the enemy was like, would I be able to assemble a team? Would I be able to run a team? Like, am I only capable of working with myself and like maybe my friends, or can I not work with other people? Things of that nature, right? The other thing is didn't get paid. Now, before you say anything, that was the agreement, because the way that the amount that the sponsor gave was truly enough for the tour. Like it was enough for the tour to happen. It was enough for us to book venues, book flights. So I didn't lose any money on this tour, but I did not make any money, if that makes sense. So the lie that was being fed to me was like, you may be able to do stuff, but it's not going to support you. Because the thing about it is like touring, the actual road part is physically intensive from a travel perspective, right? Like you're off of your routine because you're sleeping in hotels, you're in different cities, so you're not getting as much water as you normally do. If you are on a workout regimen, you're probably not following it the same way, right? But as far as the work, if you're the tour manager like myself, the event manager, the road manager, whatever you want to call it, and I'm gonna do some breakdowns of that on YouTube as well. Just subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go have some great content coming up whenever the Lord says the same. Um, but I lost my train of thought there. Oh, but the work is really done beforehand. Like my work was in January and February, booking the venues, calling the places, making sure things make sense, balancing the budget time and time and time again, updating the budget, making sure there's money here, reaching out to the volunteers, pushing Jasmine for marketing, pushing Jasmine for promotion for certain cities, giving her updates like, hey, this city is selling really well. You don't need to focus as much as talking to them. This city is not. Making crunch time decisions. There was, we were going to have two DC shows back to back. One was in DC, one was in another city in the DMV area, and the church that was working with us ghosted us. Like, they had said we were gonna work with them. We had a rate. It was gonna be a whole lot of was going on. And at the I won't even say the last minute, that week of, the communication just went radio silent. Like, I was texting, I was calling, I was emailing. I was about to show up. So we had to cancel the show at the last minute and pivot it to the DC show, which was a smaller venue, which was a problem because now we were trying to fit, I think, like 30-ish people from the other city into the DC venue, which had a capacity of 50, and we had sold like 45 tickets. So it was like, how is this going to happen? So I was giving refunds to some, promising the video, because we were doing a live recording in the DC venue. So it just, like, a lot of stuff with that. And like, I feel like the enemy was telling me then, like, you're not as organized as you think. Like, you're not as good as you think you are, right? And like, just to stop there, like, that's a lie. Like, I have organized. I am a true organizer of chaos. I can keep people together when they don't know themselves that they need to be together. And I can, if you let me start from the beginning, I can make it so that there is no chaos to organize, which is even better. So I love starting from the jump. So if anybody wants to hire me to do their tour or their events or whatever, hire me from the jump. Like, I can come in and be the hero, the rescuer, all the above, the lifeguard for the tour. But I would, or the event, the project, whatever it is, I would really love to start from the beginning. Anyway, so I think that was the lie there. It was just like, dang, like, I'm not as good as I think, and I honestly believe that. Luckily, Jasmine was able to. I think she caught that I was feeling away. She was like, "None of this is your fault. They stopped answering you," and I was like, "You know what? You're right." So I can go through all of these things and these examples, right? And I might go through a couple more, but I want to stop here. Creatives, we have to stop lying to ourselves, listening to the lies of others, and listening to the lies of the enemy, right? So the text for today, like, we always got like a scripture, because again, this, like, even with this podcast, like, I could literally talk to you for days upon end upon the experiences that I've had, the lessons learned, like, all of it, and maybe one day we will get to all of that. But I think the important thing here, as a Christian creative, as a Christian entrepreneur, as a Christian purpose seeker, as somebody who's just trying to do the will of God concerning your life, you have to know the will of God. You have to know God. You have to know, like, what His Word says. And so that's why, like, we focus, like, it. Let me tell you, if you look at my original podcast notes, none of these scriptures, like, none of this is really in there. It was like, start with a story or an anecdote, talk about, like, a real life experience, tell people to like, comment, share, subscribe, put them in a funnel. Like, none of that's really happening. I mean, we start with a story. We always start with a song, and I thought it was great. Somebody told me, they were like, you shouldn't sing. And then they saw a video on my YouTube of me singing. They were like, was that autotune singing? And I was like, no, we don't use autotune in any of my productions. And they're like, but you can't sing on your podcast. I was like, ooh, I be playing. I just be acting a fool. So some days, one of these days, I might be for real. I don't know. Actually, today I didn't act up too much. But anyway, and you always get the randomness because there's no script. There's no script. But anyway, so stop lying to yourself. Stop believing the lies of others, especially for those who don't know the story, right? And so I think, let's talk about that second one. A lot of times we are in community as creatives, as we should be, but we get advice from people who don't have any business giving us advice. There is wisdom and good counsel. Find the good counsel so you can get the wisdom. Otherwise, there's foolishness and bad counsel. That's like the other part of the scripture that's not there. I just feel like that should be stated. Because at the end of the day, if you're talking to someone who's never put on a tour, if you're talking to someone who's never been in your shoes, and is not tapped into godly wisdom in the spirit of God, because the Lord can use people who've never done what you've done to speak into your life. But if you're just talking to somebody who just is kind of not even like in you just know that they're a fool in this situation because they don't know. They're ignorant, right? Ignorance is a better word. Why are you listening to them? Whatever he or she says is incorrect. They don't know. They don't have the proper perspective. They don't know what you're going through. So prime example, I had a friend who's never done a tour before, who's never done an event, who's never been in this world, right? His career is something totally different than this, the least creative you can think of. He's a not a close friend, but anyway, so he was telling me to get out. He's like, don't be in the touring and the events industry. And I was like, why? Because you're going to lose money. And so technically he's correct. Because when I put on my own events, I have not gained money. When I did Jasmine's tour, I did, well, my own events, I've lost money. With Jasmine stuff, I didn't lose any money, but I also didn't gain any money. Got some free food. Well, it wasn't free. It was paid for by the sponsor. I was fed. I had housing. Like, so I didn't, again, it was like net zero for hers. And then some of the bigger tours that I've been on, I've obviously gotten checks. I won't say obviously, because some of them be scamming. But anyway, hit me offline if you want to hear about that. But yeah, so like this guy, he was like, "You need to get out of this." I'm like, "You're talking to me about money that you don't even know how it works, right? Like you don't your advice is null and void here." And I think you have to be able to say that to yourself when you're lying to yourself, to other people, and definitely the enemy. Whenever the enemy comes up to get you like a flood, you have got to remind yourself that the Lord has promised you something, one, or that he's a liar. He's an accuser of the brethren. Like this really has been named in James and in Job, like the accuser of the brethren. Like that's what he is. He doesn't know how to tell the truth. He can't tell the truth. So whatever the devil says, it's a perversion of the truth. It's a flat out lie. It's just something to misguide you, and we don't have time for that, right? Like we have enough obstacles in our path as is than to deal with the lies of the enemy. Like the legitimate obstacles as a creative. I talk about events a lot because that's what I do. I have to market them, which means I have to compete with all of the noise on social media, which means I have to come up with something creative to post multiple times a week, sometimes multiple times a day, that I just don't really want to do. I just come to the show, right? February 1st, Saturday, February 1st. If that's a Saturday, if it's not, it's the second. No, the second is a Sunday. The first, come to the crib as well. Just come. I don't want to have to tell you more. Like, just come. I'm tired of making content already. I haven't even made the content. I haven't made the flyer. I haven't done any of that. Just come. That's obstacle number one. Obstacle number two is people, right? We got to make sure the people are there. Listen. There is one specific position in my events that has been flaky, and I'm tired of it. I'm sick of it. I just don't know what to do anymore. So like the personnel thing, like and there are things that happen. Um, I'm gonna call out Kristen. Kristen is amazing. She has been a ride or die for all of the events. Her father was sick, so she literally said like, "Hey, I can't make it." I completely understood. There's no beef, there's no issue, there's no bad blood. We were concerned for her father's safety, her safety, his health, like her mental health, all the above. But that does not stop the fact that she was not there to sing alto, right? So there were songs that she was supposed to lead that year. There are things that had to be like moved around because of life circumstances. So not mad about it at all. But it's like you got to deal with marketing, you got to deal with people and like their situations because their life does not revolve around your project. So if you're a film, filmographer, if you're a filmographer, videographer, photographer, you're trying to do a creative shoot, you're trying to do whatever. People have their own stuff that happens, and you've got to be flexible enough. But that's an obstacle, right? I have not had a single production that I have done that I have done one. I think I might have to think harder on that one. Nope. Mm-mm. Yeah, I have not done a single production where everybody showed up that said they was going to show up. Not one. I have been producing my own events since 2019, the live ones through like this company, if you will. And I put on stuff before that as well. So like before then, I think I had some success, but like since I've been really committed to doing this, I've 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 never had everyone be there. Like even for Carol's for a Cause, somebody called out the day of at 3:30. The event starts at 7. This person was supposed to be there at 4:30. You tell me an hour in advance that you're not going to make it. God is good. So you've got marketing issues, you've got obstacles of people, you've got like logistical issues, right? It's like who's gonna do what, where are they gonna be, like the rooms, the venues, like the cameras, the equipment, like whatever the thing that you're doing is, right? Like you've got all these other roadblocks. You don't need to lie to yourself too. You don't need your own negativity um to add to the already existing things. There's enough roadblocks that'll just naturally come. Spiritual warfare, all of the above. You don't need to add lies of the enemy and your own negativity. And that's what I did today. So today, the devil really almost won. Like the lies almost won. Because I was literally going to say, Chaos for a Cause was great. That was a great wrap up to my career as an event producer. I'm done. Like, I wasn't, I don't know, I don't really know, because it feels like so long ago, even though it was like 6 hours ago. I don't really know that I was going to quit altogether, but I think I was definitely going to quit my stuff, right? Like, you were never going to get another podcast again. It was just going to disappear. It was just going to go away to the wind. Um, because what I honestly tell you is it felt like, I wouldn't say I feel like all of my work is in vain, but what I felt like is that the train is not moving fast enough, or the train has left the station and I wasn't on it, right? Like, here I am starting a podcast this year in 2024. This idea really came in like 2019 and 2020. I should have done it then, right? Now, granted, I wouldn't have had all the experience I had now, right? I think everything works in God's timing. God knows with me, He's got to plant seeds years in advance for them to grow and me to actually consider doing them, right? But here I am thinking like, man, I'm in this podcast thing, and maybe it's too late. Maybe it's too saturated. Maybe I should have done it audio, right, and done Apple and Spotify. Maybe I should have, like, maybe my YouTube presentation should be better, right? Like I honestly did not put a lot into production for this podcast because I wasn't sure I was going to continue it. So like I've got one of my video lights that lights it, so the lighting's great. I've got this mic I got off of Amazon, because we want to make sure audio is good, and I'm using my Mac webcam, which is disgusting. Although the interviews that y'all have seen are off of a much better app, but whole another thing. But I was like, yeah, I'll just stop, right? Because I told myself I was going to be consistent with the podcast every single week, dropping an episode until the create as well, the day after the create as well, or the week after the create as well, and then take a break, right? Give you all like a good season. I think that would be like 20 episodes or something like that. Calculated it out, and then take a little break and come back like springtime, refreshed, rejuvenated, revived, renewed, blah blah, like all the positive. Like I too need a well, right? And we haven't even talked about what the create as well means, but so many things. We have just been on the train, but I felt like it was in vain. To be honest, like every episode gets like somewhere between 15 and like 20-ish views. It's not bad for just starting, but as somebody who has been on 2 podcast tours as like the tour manager and producer, or like logistics and whatever, they got millions, thousands of downloads, like all like, so it's just like, ugh, Will I ever be as big as the Perrys? Will I ever be as big as Ezekiel? All these people that I work with and I see their stuff blowing up. And of course, the logical part of me says they've been doing this for a very long time, right? They were in Lyricist Lounge, they were in Rhetoric, they were P4CM, Poets in Autumn. Then they started their podcast and they did their things. And then they went out and blew up and like all the things, right? But for me, of course, I'm just sitting here like, I know their formulas. Formulas, it's not really, they have favor, right? That's the thing. They have hard work, years of dedication, years of hard work, and the favor of the Lord is upon them, and God has gifted them and graced them for this season. The real question is this just a season of hiding and preparation for me? Is this the audience that I will have, right? Like I love y'all who comment, y'all who encourage and affirm the podcast. I really do love y'all. None of y'all are paying the bills. Be honest, right? You gotta have, I think, like 1,000 subscribers on YouTube and then 4,000 watch hours to be monetized. We have 38 subscribers, so it's like I don't think we're getting anywhere near that monetization level anytime soon, right? Like, do you know how cool it would be that I wake up to a check from YouTube that pays my mortgage for the month? And here's the thing, my mortgage isn't even that high. So it's possible, but when or if that will happen, right? And I think part of the issue with, we're talking creativity now and all of entrepreneurship, it's knowing like if it's gonna pop off or when is it gonna pop off or to what extent will it pop off, right? Because God says like, I know the plans I have for you, thoughts to prosper you, for you to be in good health. All of that is relative, right? Just paying your bills is prospering. That's good. Just being covered and never missing anything, never the righteous never being forsaken or a seed eating bread, right? Like that is good. In America, we are looking for wealth and riches and all of the things, and I don't know that God has really promised that for everybody. Well, I won't even say I don't know. God has not promised that for everybody, right? He's promised us good mental health. He's promised us peace. He's promised us joy. He's promised us fulfillment in Him. He's not promised us stacks and stacks of money. So it's hard because when you're doing God's calling, you're doing God's work, like I'm trying to consistently stay with doing. The question is like, okay, Lord, am I going to continue to work my full time job? Right? Am I going to be recording podcasts at 12:39 at night, knowing that well, I don't do any editing? That's the beauty of this, because y'all get what you get. But it's gonna, process, put up. I'll be in bed by maybe like 1:30, and then I work from home, but like still be up for work the next day, and still like there's still client things I need to get done tonight. So looking at like 2:30. So like, will I always be tired? Will it be this endless cycle, or will it ever be a point where my creativity that you've given me is enough to sustain me, or will it not be? Right? Like it's kind of like that juggle, right? My events, the other thing I was thinking about today was for Carols for a Cause, a lot of people said they were coming. It was a free event. They registered. And then the day of, they said it was cold and they said they weren't coming or they just bailed, right? And I think that is the hardship of free events, right? Because if it's free, you didn't spend any money. So if you don't go, you don't go. I myself did not go to a free event I registered for on Saturday because it was all the way in Maryland, and I went to brunch with my parents, and I had the itis. I was sleepy, so I knew I wasn't leaving Stafford to go to Maryland and to fight traffic at that time, right? Like I would have needed to plan my day out better. So that kind of stuff happens, right? So I'm not mad at the people because I know that it happens, but it is frustrating because then, when you try to get pictures, you try to do whatever, the audience, my church is so gracious of letting us use it, but the church is like for 200 some people. I think there were like 30 people there. That's really small. Like even with me roping off a whole section and trying to put people in the middle, it was skimp, you know? And so putting on a good show, having a good time, like it still was a fun time. It still was a great show. But looking back at the video and like me trying to like I try to record stuff from the stage too. Like I don't want to post it because it just looks so empty. So like to me, from a marketer's perspective, my marketing brain, I am now showing people that yes, I can produce good stuff, it's quality, but people aren't coming. So, one of the things you try to inspire with marketing is FOMO, fear of missing out. I can't do that with these clips, right? If it's someone who just really loves music, if it's someone who really loves supporting up and coming creatives, yes, but that's not the average person, right? So that was a lie today that I was like, man, my events are worthless. And so now gearing up to go into the creatives well, which I have, booked two people to come forward. I've thought through the framework for it, and God has given me a really dope idea, and I started working through it, and I'm really excited about it. But I'm like, dang, will anybody come? Like, and by will anybody, like I know there will be people there, but like, can we get 50 people? Like, Lord, if I can get 50, I'm great. But those 50 don't generally come until the last day, right? So, like, could we get 50 beforehand and then maybe on the last day get an additional, like, 15, 20? Like, you like, set, like, if I had 100 people in my event, y'all don't know how happy I would be. You could have told me nothing. And today, my mind, the enemy, I won't, because here's the thing, it's not always the enemy, right? Like, partially it was, I know it was, but I also allowed it to happen, right? He doesn't have control, he doesn't have power. The Lord has already beaten him. So the only power the enemy has is the power that we allow him to have. And so, like, even when the enemy tried to attack Job, like the Lord said, like, had to release the hedge of protection over Job for the enemy to be able to do what he wanted to do. And the Lord gave him parameters. He was like, okay, just don't touch his body. Okay, just don't kill. You can't kill him. So yes. So I was like, oh yeah, I don't need to do events anymore. Like, events are over. I can do events for other people, but I'm not doing them. I'm not investing anymore in this. I'm not doing whatever. And I still don't want to invest. Like, if y'all know a sponsor, y'all know somebody who wants to donate uh $2,500 to me for the create as well, send them my way. And I mean that for real. If you know anybody who does, because I want to put on a good show. I want to put on like, and here's the thing, when you know you have a quality product, I think it's even harder to deal in these thoughts, because it's like, man, I know what I have is good, but for whatever reason, other people are not gravitating to it, which could be a marketing issue, which could just be a regional issue, right? Like the area in which I feel honestly called to is odd. It's Woodbridge, Stafford Woodbridge. Like, it's not like a poppin' area. It's not like super young. It's not overly black. Like, it's just it's a weird thing. So like, there's a lot of uphill battles, and so now I'm like, today I really want to just throw in the towel. And so yeah, so the podcast, I was gonna just delete it, and or just let it sit and be done. Events, I was just gonna be like, you're not gonna do it or whatever. But and I could go down the list. I really could. But I try to keep these at like 20 to 30 minutes, and I think that only happened for like the first two. So we're gonna speed this up. Um, but I went to the gym because I've been trying to get back better with fitness. I was challenged by my friend Tandela, Lady T. She's the one that is always hosting the events, and so she did a 7-day Apple Watch challenge with me. So I told her that she probably was gonna win, but I was gonna give her some competition. So I knew I needed to go today so I could do it. I got on the treadmill. I did not have my AirPod. I don't know where my AirPods are. That's also just very frustrating to me. I don't know where that pair of AirPods in. So if you want to send a sponsor and new AirPods, that would be amazing, because I was so bored in the gym. But before, like, I started walking, and I was like, this isn't gonna work. This is not gonna work. But I remember saying, God, I don't have the motivation to keep walking. I don't have the desire to keep walking. I am tired. I am mentally drained. I am in a funk. I don't want to do this. I'm only here to show up for this competition. But God, I need you to show up for me. I need you to be real to me in this moment. God, I know you're real. And I want you all to hear that. I know God's real. sometimes I do have a hard time feeling his realness to me. I've seen God use me to speak to other people. I've seen God use me to encourage people. I've seen God use me to create stuff, write stuff, like posts that I put that I think are stupid or just very flippantly put out there. I've seen the Lord use to encourage people. People will DM me this podcast. Like people will DM me and be like, "Man, that really encouraged me," and I'm like, really? And it'll be the things I put so much effort in that I'm that crickets, but we're not focusing on that right now. But on that treadmill, I said, God, I need you to come through for me because if you don't do it, it's not gonna get like I'm going to get off this treadmill. I'm going to go back, lay back on the couch in the dark by just the light of the Christmas tree that I'm looking at right now, and wallow and continue to wallow in self pity. And I was walking. There was no music. There was no nothing. I really felt like the noise of the room kind of faded away, and it was just me in silence. And then it was God, and then He started talking to me about like this very topic, and He was like, "This is what you're going to talk about on your podcast. You're going to talk about today. You're going to talk about this," because I think people don't hear the real enough. And this may not get a whole bunch of shares, it may not get whatever, but I hope that it encourages somebody to be like, I work with Preston and Jackie and Hill Perry. They are amazing people, really cool people, and I still don't feel satisfied. That's just the fact. Now, there are different work I would love to do for them. There I won't like get on that because it's really not that. Like the role I have isn't necessarily the role that I would want, if that makes sense. Or yeah, yeah, yeah. I've worked with Ezekiel. I've done tours with him, but he's not doing like the Poets Anonymous kind of poetry tours anymore. He's kind of shifted his focus into other areas, and I don't know if I fit into that. I'm just gonna be honest. I don't know if I do that. I know how to produce the poetry shows. I would like to continue to produce poetry shows. I think they're dope. I think they're great. I don't know. Like, I'm just being honest. I don't know. Like, this is the stuff that was going through my mind today, the past couple of weeks. Like, then I also feel called, like, the Lord's like, you need to focus on your events. Like, doing the Creators Well once a year, and like no other pop-up events, no other whatever. Like, he's giving me the idea to do it in different cities and stuff like that. But like, how? But I can't do all that if I'm spending all my time with other people and other events and their logistics and their things and this, that. But I'm like, Lord, those are the few things that bring me money. Like, my stuff isn't bringing me money. It's costing me money to do what you've like put in me. And that's just the way of the kingdom. Like, sacrifice comes. I'm not saying you always will be in the negative, because that's not the full way of the kingdom, but sacrifice does come. Like, hardship comes, suffering comes. In order to reign with Christ, you have to suffer with Christ. And I'm suffering. I'm gonna be honest, I'm suffering. I would love for the suffering to end. I don't know when it will end, um, but I know it's seasonal, and I know that at some point something will turn, right? So whether it's the podcast, whether the merchandise, I didn't even mention that. Like, I feel like I have fire and fly merchandise, but people don't. Some people are rocking with it, but they're not the way that I would love for it to be, and it's just facts. So I might do a part two of this because I feel like there's more to be said here, but we are approaching 45 minutes, and I have not even really read the scripture. So when I was on the treadmill, the Lord was um, really bringing me to Philippians chapter 4. And so Philippians, written by Paul, and he wrote this letter to the church of Philippi. Um, and he was in jail when he wrote this letter. And he starts off the letter just talking about how grateful he is, because he's, at this point, I think he was in Rome or Ephesus when he was in jail, but he was probably going to be beheaded or killed. Like, he knew that he was coming to the end of his imprisonment, which meant that he was coming to the end of his life. But he writes he writes his letter with so much joy. Um, and so in Philippians 1:6, he says, I know that, let me read it verbatim, because I could butcher it, but I might get it right. And I'm sure of this, that he who began a good work in you, being God, will bring it to completion at the day of Jesus Christ. Like, this is where, like, people always talk about, yeah, we might do a part two for this because there's a lot to unpack. Um, but I'm gonna leave you with this in Philippians chapter 4. So he goes through all the things, telling the church of Philippi like how the Philippian church, like how much he loves them, how much he appreciates them. They've been so good to him. They've paid into his ministry. They've supported him. They've loved on him. They've done all the things. Um, and yet he's still in this situation. He's still in this negative situation. He's still suffering. But in Philippians chapter 4, starting at verse 4, it says, Rejoice. These are Paul's words. Rejoice in the word always. Again, I will say, rejoice. Let your reasonableness be known to everyone. The Lord is at hand. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about those things. What you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, practice these things, and the God of peace will be with you. Philippians 4, 4 through 9. Very quickly, just in thinking about this text, this slapped me today because I was like, I'm focusing on the what ifs, but God commands you to focus on the what is. Whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, what is present. So Paul is telling them to focus on what was presently good. Stop worrying about the future, creatives. And that's really to me as well. Stop worrying about the future. The future, like somewhere in the Bible, Jesus said it. So John, I think, don't worry about tomorrow. No, Matthew, Sermon on the Mount. One of the two. Jesus says, uh, told you random. He says, don't worry about the troubles for tomorrow because tomorrow has enough troubles or things to worry about for themselves. Matthew, I'm going to read it because it's Matthew 6. Thank you, Lord. I'm pretty sure that that's that. And which of you, being anxious, can add a single hour to his span of life? And why are you anxious about clothing? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow, how they neither toil nor spin. Um, do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble. We got enough to deal with right now. That's Matthew chapter 6. It's the end of the Sermon on the Mount. So thank you, Lord. Because as soon as I said John, I think there's something about peace there. But anyway, but we have enough trouble for today. We don't need to be focused about tomorrow. Creatives, whatever task you're at right now, whatever the Lord has given you to do today, let that be your focus. Going back to Philippians 4, what is? It's present. It is a present command to think about what is, not what if, well, not what will be. What is? And I commend you. I hope to God that you take this advice, that through the end of this entire podcast, if you made it to the end, that you think about what is. And that is what will carry you. Because if you're focused on the now, then you're focused on the now. Whatever you focus on magnifies. Whatever you focus on is where your focus is. I know that sounds redundant, but it's true. Like, if I'm constantly thinking about, even in a positive way, if I'm thinking, whenever an event is coming up, it's only like, it's the thing that's on my mind. Like, it becomes my lock screen. Like, this is the next one. The Lord is my shepherd. It's going to be the theme, Psalm 23. That's going to be good too. So, February 1st, come on out for that. But whatever you focus on, it gets magnified. I think about it every single day. The Lord puts a different part of the event on my mind or different whatever, and I focus on it. I pull out my notes app. I pulled out the Google Docs. That's how you know it's real. And I really get to going. Like, And I think that's the thing. We have to get to the point where we are focused on what needs to be focused on. And we spend so much time focusing on the what ifs and the what will and the negatives and the whatever and who did not show up and who says they're not going to make it, that we forget about who is present in our life. We forget about who did come to the event. We forget about the revenue that has increased or stayed the same or whatever the case is. Like, and it's easier said than done because we are so prone to think of the negative. I know I am. I am more negative and realistic than I ever am optimistic. My mom is so optimistic. My dad and I don't understand it. There's this book by Manny Arango. I think it's called Brainwashed. It was really good. I struggled because I wasn't ready to read it. I think I'm going to try to revisit it during Christmas break, which it really isn't a break for me because in corporate America you only get one day, which is another reason I need to work for myself because I want to take Christmas and New Year's off, but and I don't have any more PTO. But okay. So on the list of things, sponsorship, $2,500. Um, what was it? AirPods and PTO. Those are the things I need. But what I need for you to do as we wrap this up, and probably we'll touch this again at some point, is whatsoever things are pure, lovely, just, true. Think on those things. So creative, like we're gonna come back to this. I'm gonna do an end of the year, like a live podcast type of thing or whatever, and we're gonna do like we're gonna workshop it. We're gonna sit down. We're gonna write down what is good. We're gonna write down like we're going to work this out because it's a skill that we need to do. So I have talked enough. I feel like a Baptist preacher again because I really do try to keep these at 30 minutes. I really do. I was like, oh well, if I'm interviewing people, it'll go like 45 to 50 minutes, but I hope it helped you. And if it did, like, comment, share, subscribe. Um, would love the comments. Honestly, I think, and I would recommend you to comment on people's stuff more often, right? Even if it's just a fire emoji, or the clapping, or whatever. Like it gives people the affirmation to continue to keep on going. And yes, I know we should not be seeking affirmation and validation from people. But as creatives, as people who are putting stuff out there, we're looking for a response. Like to say that we're not is a lie, right? Like anyone who tells you they're just putting it out for no response. There are people who probably do that, but they probably don't have their comments on. They probably don't have anything on. They probably don't even post often. But for those of us who are trying to use social media as a tool to, one, advance the gospel and accomplish the goals that God has given us, but two, also like spread our name, if you will, the platform, so that more people can hear about it, so that more people can be a part, so that more people can support or whatever. Like those comments go a long way to remind you that your content actually landed, right? So if this lands, shout out to those who do comment. I do really appreciate it. I know there are people who DM me who say they love it, they whatever, and I appreciate all of that. Like I do, and I will continue. Today the devil almost killed me in my not so sleep, but sleep. So um, I hope you have a great last week before Christmas. There will be another one up on Christmas Eve. I was thinking about doing a Christmas episode, but we'll see because every episode seems to get hijacked with the content that I want to talk about. So we'll see what the Holy Spirit has to say through me next week. But until then, peace, love, and chicken grease or something. I don't know. Bye.